Hey, Coach. Welcome to your first all-cast show. In case you forgot my name, I'm Tony Massenberg. Remember, I was on your first team at the University of Maryland. Anyway, we got to talk about that. While you're at it, just come on out here and join us. We know you got time because you're retired now, so we know you got plenty of time to come and tell some stories. But do me a favor, just don't tell any stories from my senior year unless they're really good, all right? Look forward to seeing you.
We're back on the Altcast, and it is an honor, a privilege to welcome in Coach Gary Williams. Thank you for joining us, Gary.
Thank you for having me.
You look sharp, as always, dapper even.
I try to. I don't look as sharp as Tony, though.
Tony can pull anything off at all times.
That's right.
He's dapper and he's sharp because he's not out there screaming at officials anymore. He's calmed it down a little bit. He's got his golf game in order. I mean, it's a whole new Gary Williams.
That's an exaggeration. In order.
It's funny, Coach, they give me these cards with your bio, but for you, I do not need this.
Really?
I was at Maryland when you won the title. I know you were at BC, Ohio State. I know all of it. I know you left Ohio State to come back to your alma mater when you didn't have to do that, and I know what it means for all Terps that you did it.
No, it meant a lot to me, having gone to school there. And
sure.
Actually getting my degree there, it was a struggle, but we got it.
Most for all of us.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
What do you think? We've been talking about all this stuff all night, and I want to let you connect with Buck and Phil, who you've known forever. But I want to start with something that I'm guessing you just love. What do you think of that basketball court?
I'll tell you, I am old, so I'm not a big fan of that, but I understand why they're doing it. Try to put some significance on the game and all that, and it's business. It's a good business move to do that because you turn it on. Oh, this must be one of those play-in games.
Right. Generate some interest.
So it's good. Yeah. It's good.
Do you know the story? Buck and Phil just told us this. The question Larry David once asked them at, I assume, Staples Center.
Oh yeah. That's who he should be asking.
Yeah. Are you friendly with Larry David?
I've met him. We did an alumni thing in Los Angeles, and in walks Larry David. He wasn't on the list or anything. He just heard you were having a meeting, and all he wanted to do was talk basketball.
Right.
He didn't want to alumni.
Huge basketball fan.
You got to tell him what he asked you then.
So we're doing a Laker game, and he comes up to us in a timeout on the court. He's looking at us from the court, and he says, "Can I ask you guys a question?" And we were stunned. We said, "Yeah, what is it?" He said, "How come Juan Dixon doesn't get more playing time?" He says, I'm a Terp. That's what he asked us.
He played like 36 minutes a game out of 40.
And we try to explain.
Not for you. He's saying when he was on the Wiz.
When the NBA.
He couldn't have played more for you.
No. When he was with the Wizards.
Let him come out of the game.
You got everything you got out of him, didn't you?
Hey, get out there.
He played 40 minutes.
What do you mean you're tired? You're not tired.
I have a question for Buck and for Gary, because Buck, you kept the tie on pretty much your whole career.
Absolutely.
Tie.
Absolutely.
But, Phil, you started going more casual as you were calling games, right? You started going with the turtlenecks, the sweater look. Coach, nobody wears a coat and tie on the sideline anymore. What do you guys think of the evolution? Well, I'm not talking player fashion. I'm saying coach fashion.
I'm curious to know what Gary thinks about it, because when I look at coaches and see them in like sweatsuits.
Some guys started to do it right before COVID.
Right.
But then COVID, everybody went
did
to
it.
the tracksuits or whatever.
Huggins was wearing those in like 95.
And then
Huggins had problems getting a suit.
And then it became okay to do.
Sure.
I mean, it was passable now at this point.
I still think, I don't know, you respect the game, okay? So if I'm coaching, I don't know about announcing or how you feel about it.
Right.
If I'm coaching, that's a big deal to coach a game. I mean, if I'm lucky enough to be a coach, I'm going to respect the game.
Yes.
And always. That's why, if I was coaching today, I'd wear a sport coat and probably an open collar shirt.
Yeah.
If I was coaching.
I was going to say, to me, the tie just seemed really
too much
suffocating.
But
for a coach.
For a game, I mean, you're coaching, you're in the huddle, guys are sweating.
Yeah, you're watching some of those games now, and these guys are top coaches, and they're
lounging.
They're lounging.
They look very comfortable. There's Gary Williams.
There it is.
In all of his glory back in College Park. We're coming right back on the Altcast.
Hey, Coach Williams. Gravy's over here. I hear you coming to the Altcast show, so I'm excited about that. But you know how much I love you, and I miss you a lot, man. I wish I could go back to college and play for you again. I can't wait for you to say and talk about our stories. We won a lot of games. We won a lot of battles. I can't wait, man. I love you.
That's funny. Grievous.
Where does he rank, Gary?
He won the Bob Cousy Award, the point guard. People forget that he was the outstanding point guard in the country. We beat Duke to tie them, and he threw in a shot against Duke to win that game to tie the regular season. The year they won the national championship in 2010. He was just a great player. He loved the game. The best thing about Grievous, you had to push him out of practice. We can't leave yet. I still got to work on that.
Really?
Get out of here. Go home.
Yeah.
Obviously a passionate player.
Oh my! He did the shimmy. I had to defend him his freshman year because he's got that soccer mentality. Growing up in Venezuela.
Absolutely.
And he gets out there and he'd make a three and he'd give it the shimmy, and all that stuff. And I said, Grievous, they're going to kill you if you miss that.
There it is. Look, from Maryland. I don't know if you can see
there
that.
it is.
Coach.
There it is.
Oh, my God, that's awesome.
I have a unique question here. You obviously coached all over, Ohio State, Big East, and BC.
American U, too.
American U, sure.
Yeah.
But Maryland is now in the Big Ten.
Right.
And Phil, you played your college ball at Cal Berkeley.
I was going to say,
the
Gary,
Golden
you
Bears.
realize that they were still in the ACC? I could see my alma mater play right up the street.
How weird is that for you that Cal is in the ACC?
It's very weird. I mean, again, I remember when I first came out here and the ACC was hopping in, and so you're used to those teams, you're used to those rivalries.
Oh, yeah.
So the same thing on the West Coast. So to blend all that together, it just becomes confusing. But I would like to see my alma mater play in a game.
Yeah, that was all about TV contracts.
Yeah,
what happened with the Pac-12? They just didn't have one compared to Big Ten,
It's
ACC.
crazy.
And the ACC's in a little bit of trouble with their TV contracts.
Right.
Is that right?
So
Interesting.
what are your feelings about that, Gary? Because when you talk to fans, they're like,
now it's inevitable. You
How
look at
long
the
has it
Southeast
been now
Conference.
for Maryland in the Big Ten? Over a decade,
14,
right?
2014.
So right at 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
What's interesting is I bet for students, now, certainly students now in Maryland, they don't even think about the ACC.
No.
And I bet in 5 years that'll be how Cal
that's
people
like-
feel
it's
about
just
it.
the way it
Well,
goes.
they won't have a pack, whatever. I mean, they're going to have
That's
to
true.
find their own
listen,
two teams
I hate to
left.
say it, but it's like Commanders fans.
Yeah.
The new generation isn't going to think about the Redskins.
I know.
They're thinking the Commanders is fine.
You know what?
It's okay to say it, Phil. It's okay.
It happened. They changed it.
No, it's okay.
You know what's interesting, though, especially during the really hot start, and they've obviously cooled off, but the name stuff on the radio show was the never-ending topic. The middle of June didn't matter. Open the phone lines up. What do you want the name to
But
be?
what do you think they keep saying about the Wizards and the Bullets?
Sure. Yeah.
Change it back.
Sure.
But now people care about Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury. It's funny what winning can do.
Will do.
And I bet
cures all
the
ills.
Wiz Bullets era when Gil, Karan, and Jameson, they were the Wiz kids, and we went to the games and cheered for them.
Yeah. Hey, Gary, we were talking about hitting Phil with a technical foul. Your remembrance of officials in the ACC.
Yeah.
Who did you like to interact with? Who really kind of got under your skin? Who did you get under their skin?
Probably got under all their skin. But for me, no. One of the really good guys, who's an outstanding official. Some people didn't like him. Ted Valentine.
Ted Valentine,
They
big
called
time.
him TV Teddy. But you know what? Anytime you had a big game and you
was
walked
doing
out
it.
there, you could be on the road. You know he was just going to call the game. He had this attitude where he just didn't want to hear it to a point. You could mess with him a little bit, but then he'd just say, hey, you got to sit down now.
There were guys you
sat
knew
down.
that you could mess with, right? And guys that you couldn't.
Yeah. One of the great officials in the ACC was Jim Burr.
Sure, Jim Burr.
Who did a lot of Final Fours.
Yeah.
In fact, he did our Final Four when we won it.
Yeah, Hank Nichols was great.
Wasn't Sterator in the ACC?
Jim was good. Sterator was in the ACC for a while, the football.
And then there was Lenny Wirtz, who I used to call him the irreducible Lenny Wirtz.
Lenny Wirtz
he was this tall.
did my games when I played in the 60s. When I came back, we played in the Dean Dome against North Carolina in 89-90, and Lenny was on that game, doing the game.
Yeah.
And Dean Smith, who never got a technical, Dean was Dean was sarcastic, but he wouldn't curse or anything like that.
Right.
So, plays in front of Carolina's bench. Lenny Wirtz goes, technical foul, Coach Smith. Play comes down my end. I go, Lenny, what was that? And he says, you know what he did? He said his record when I worked his games was 78-34. I go, well, what was the complaint about? He goes, he told me that was the worst record he had with any referee in the ACC.
That's funny.
Oh, Lenny works. You know, he was head of the LPGA for a while.
I didn't know
he
that.
He was president of the LPGA
That's quite a career.
way back in the day. Yeah.
There was one, you know, Patrick Stevens. There was one guy that Stevens would always point out where he was reffing that night. Who was that dude? I'm blanking on his name. He was widely considered the worst ref in the ACC.
Well, there was a couple.
Patrick, if you're watching, tweet me and let me know. He was a football guy also, so you know, so you said Ted Valentine.
Yeah.
He was awarded, he got the college basketball best referee award in 2005. Valentine.
Oh, yeah. No, he was, I think any coach, whether you liked him or not, you respected him because you know he wasn't going to screw anybody.
Yeah.
It's the best way I can put it.
Absolutely.
He might not make nobody makes every call, right? Just like coaching, you don't make every sub right or anything like that. But he was going to be honest. He was not going to make a makeup call. Phil, you had to hate that.
How real are makeup calls, Phil?
On a makeup call, like
and you knew when it was a makeup call.
You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. You know?
How annoying is a whistle that comes late because the guy did make the bucket?
Yeah, it just makes you question the official that much more because, you know, if you make it quick, definitive, decisive, okay, that's where he saw. I disagree with him, but okay. But when you see this waiting to see, did he make the basket? Who was it?
Yeah.
Who was involved? Is this a rookie involved?
I was watching. The big thing now is guy goes in for a shot, pretty easy shot layup. Might have got hit a little bit. Referee waits to see if it goes in or not, and then blows his whistle if it doesn't go in.
But you know, I had
it's either a foul or not a foul, right?
Yeah,
regardless of the outcome.
But do you like that?
Well, it's not that I like it, but I got to be friendly with a lot of referees.
He likes that stuff.
And Josh
Buck
Tiven
sticks up for the rest.
Josh Tiven is a good friend, and I used to play golf with him in the summer in Connecticut. And I sat down with him to ask him about that, and he said that there's a method to that. It's not that we're waiting to see whether the ball goes in the basket. He said a lot of times we're waiting to see if the contact actually affected the shot or not, because they're not going to call a foul on every play. Just like they're not going to call holding in the NFL
so
on every play.
If the shot doesn't go in, then it affected it too much. Then.
It depends.
So you are waiting for to see if the shot.
It's kind of, you know, but the way he explained it, and Scott Foster was the same way. And Scott's a local guy. And
he's a local guy.
He's the #1 referee in the NBA, and he's a local dude. He went to Maryland. You know,
his future wife was the basketball secretary my first year.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so they would come into the press room with all the media on the first game of the NBA season. Of course, we would go up there to New Jersey with them for 2 or 3 days before the season and go through the whole litany of stuff, which was really smart on the NBA's part. But he would come in, and when the step back thing started happening with Harden, and actually it was Paul Pierce that really started it, and I said, Scott, you can't tell me that's not traveling.
It's a walk.
And he said, this is how they define it now. 2 steps back, they gather, they shoot, and that's what it is now. A change of the game.
The game has changed so significantly. We're diving into it next on the Allcast. I wish everybody got to sit here for the conversations during the commercials. Gary, this is you cutting down the nets, winning the title in Atlanta. What's it like for you to watch that?
That's pretty cool. Haven't seen it for a while.
And he didn't fall off the ladder.
No, I was young then.
You were young then. You wouldn't get up there now.
No. Hey, go up. You gotta get one of the manager. Would you cut a piece of net for me?
Exactly.
I got a cool story for you from that night. So I was a junior in college.
Right.
We got tickets. I was at every game of the Final Four run. The only ones we couldn't get tickets to were the ones here because it was such a hot ticket. But we went to Syracuse, watched it up there. Went down to Atlanta, watched it down there. And guess who? It was me and like 20 students, 20 of my fraternity brothers, and Scott Van Pelt.
Really?
He said he wanted to sit with the students. He found just a collection of idiots and sat with us for the whole game.
That's good.
It was very cool. I've since gotten to know Scott, but he just wanted to be with the students. What an electric night that was. It still means a lot to me. I can only imagine what it means to you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just, you coach your whole life, and, you get one, and it was pretty cool.
For sure.
Yeah.
Buck, do you remember when the Wiz were up 10?
Yeah, they're down 8 now.
They were, I promise.
They were up 10. See, that's what's happened is good. And I mentioned that they get out to a nice lead, can't hold it, and that's going to happen. But, again, We're not counting wins and losses now. We're just counting on how this team competes and the development of these young players. And I think everybody sort of knows that. You'd love for them to win, but it's
What
going to
do
be.
you have, like 4 guys, 19 years old in there, something like that?
Yeah, right. It's a process.
rookies.
It's a process.
I mean, and we were saying earlier, that's young for college now.
Yeah.
That's very young for
Now,
college.
so this brings us to really the $64,000 question. This NIL and this portal stuff.
Right.
You may or may not want to discuss it openly, but I need to ask you about this because, all right, where I went to school at James Madison, that really is the perfect example of how a mid-major cannot survive in this environment.
Right.
Our basketball team lost every one of its players except one.
Yeah.
Football team had 62 guys on the roster.
How many are
58 are new.
How many are at Indiana on that
13.
winning team?
13 on the Indiana football team. Tony Bennett quit.
Right.
Nick Saban quit.
Yeah.
How would you handle this? Would it be disgusting to you? And I'm not saying that the kids don't deserve to get paid, but clearly it's changed the dynamic of all college sports.
The kids should get paid. They should get paid because they're the talent.
Right.
They should get paid. But there's ways to do it without turning it into a bidding war. There's no guardrails.
There's no rules.
There's no. Think about this: NBA, NFL, they both have salary caps.
Absolutely.
There's no salary cap.
They all
in
have
college.
rules.
Hey, guys are making Cooper Flagg at Duke, for example. He's got to be over $1 million, and he's probably going to be there for 1 year. Is it? He'll be there 1 year.
Right.
The kid Queen at Maryland.
Yep.
He's making a lot of money.
Great player.
And he might be there 1 year. And it's really, there's nothing going on with academics, by the way. That period of being a football player.
That might be one of those ways.
There's so many kids that are getting like 100,000. They're saying, "Man, it's pretty cool. I got a lot of money."
Right.
Do
they go to class?
Very few. A lot of Zoom classes where somebody else might be
Interesting.
doing the
and
work.
so, how would you feel about it now?
I would. It would be hard right now, except for the fact coaches are making a lot of money now too.
Right. So you ain't going anywhere.
So you might be able to adjust.
You might be able to handle it.
But Maryland obviously has a big alumni, so they would be in a position to generate a lot of revenue to pay these kids. And the one thing that I would point to that I think where it started is, I know when I was at Cal, I got a scholarship. I got a 4-year scholarship, period.
Right.
And then about 10 years later, I'm talking to somebody, and they said, well, I got 3 1-year contract.
Scholarship contracts.
Scholarships, yeah. So I'm saying, wait a minute, what about the 4 years? Well, no, I was only able to negotiate 2 years or 3 years.
Yeah.
So if they can, if schools are not, dedicated to them, why should a player be dedicated to the school?
Well, and I think the transfer portal takes that much further. And I think what was always unfair, and you never did this, thank goodness, but coaches leave. And the players are there, and they've committed.
No,
and then,
I mean, players should be allowed to leave. If a coach leaves,
I agree,
players should
totally.
leave. And he shouldn't be able to go where the coach goes, like the football coach from James Madison, taking how many
Indiana,
guys?
13 players.
Yeah, I mean, that just kills your.
And he left before we had a bowl game. He was gone.
Hey, he didn't take any bad ones with him.
No, he took good players.
ones.
Yeah. And if we still had those players,
and
they still have a decent record. They won 7 games. They're already bowl eligible.
they just lost to App State, though.
But, that wasn't good. Yeah.
See,
that
the
was bad.
problem with the transfer
app guy.
portal for players, every time you transfer, you lose credits. Because schools don't recognize all the credits from the previous school.
but they don't care about
Nobody's
that.
graduating. Nobody's graduating.
Right.
And and a lot of these kids I was getting to before, they make $100,000 as a college football player, basketball player. They think that's a lot of money. They don't have any money when they're done college. That 100 becomes 60 really quick with taxes.
Yeah.
Buy a car. It's gone. That's it. That's it.
Right.
They're not buying Chevrolets either.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just
tricky,
wonder, especially having Gary here, it just makes me wonder how you would handle all of this that's going on, because a guy like Tony Bennett, who's,
Tony
coach.
just he was honest. He was being honest. I wish he would have stayed until the end of the season, because all those guys went to Virginia to play for Tony.
Sure.
So
That's a good point.
I didn't want him to go when he did.
Yeah.
But I understand why he wanted to go.
I thought the timing for UVA particularly was brutal.
Yeah, it was.
And you see sometimes coaches get fired halfway through.
And one of their best guards went into the portal right when Tony left. He says, I'm out of here.
Well, that's the other thing. You talked about leaving school and all. I mean, I don't think these guys should be able to leave during the season. And you had guys play football that play 3 games and go to another school.
Because you can redshirt that year still if you only play 3. If you play 4, that counts as a
Right.
year. The other thing with those guys, okay, you get to a bowl game. Tremendous in football, right? Quarterback walks in to the coach and says,
I'm not playing.
I need another 50 if you want me to play.
Right. I don't want to get hurt.
Now that may or may not have happened.
Oh, that's happened
in a city close by.
Yes, it might have happened. Yeah.
A town inside the Beltway where if you just go on Rhode Island Avenue, it'll get you.
No comment. No comment.
Because I think I heard that story.
Can you be
too.
any more clear than that?
There's a lot of things up Rhode Island Avenue, Buck. You don't want to go that way after midnight. Gary, we are letting you go at halftime here. I can't tell you how cool it is to have you sitting on this couch.
Well, thank you.
You should do it more often. You're welcome anytime.
Great to see you guys. And Phil, you were one of my heroes. Not that you're old, but like I was.
Okay, I'm glad
I
you
was in the
prefaced
game.
that.
I was in the game coaching. I was an assistant coach at Lafayette College when you guys were making a championship run, and I'll never forget that because I went to school, at the University of Maryland.
Yeah.
And it was always my team. It was the Bullets back then, up in Baltimore. But
That's right.
it became my team, and I was so proud that you could talk about, a team from here winning an NBA championship.
Right.
It was cool.
I mean, how many games did you watch with these guys calling them?
Quick Wes Unseld story. I'm working Lefty Drizel's camp, as a high school coach, right out of Maryland. This is like 1971. Wes Unseld was a speaker at Lefty's camp. I saw this. Wes Unseld threw the ball up in the glass, going up and got it, turned in the air, and threw the ball, 2-hand chest pass, across the end line down the other end. Nobody can do that.
No.
Nobody can do that.
Stories like that, true legendary stuff.
True
Thank
story,
you, Gary.
too.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.